I have a question for all of you. Why did you choose an independent school? Think about it for a moment, see what jumps to mind. The National Association of Independent Schools says you chose St. Luke's because you have a job for us. Actually, 4 possible jobs. This is recent research from NAIS about why families choose independent schools. We see 4 jobs to be done. Help me help my child overcome obstacles. Help me fulfill my child's potential in a values-aligned community. Help me develop a well-rounded person who will impact the world. And help me realize my plan for my talented child. My experience and data from the St. Luke's Parent Survey says that typically you hire us for a combination of jobs 2 and 3. You want your school to help you help your children reach their potential, build a strong moral compass, and move into the world well-rounded and ready to make a positive impact. That's a big job. So how are we doing? Tonight is our performance review. It's when we gather as a community to reflect and point to our future. In a moment, Board Chair James Andersen will kick off our State of the School presentation, our annual How Are We Doing? But first, we'll join in a cherished St. Luke's tradition, the celebration and the presentation of the Distinguished Faculty Award. Named for the school's founder, the Distinguished Faculty Award goes to a faculty member who exemplifies Mr. Blakely's founding qualities of excellence and character. This year, the Distinguished Faculty Award goes to middle school math teacher Nancy Walsh.
Thank you.
I'm not here. So I'm going to say just a few words to embarrass Nancy. Nancy has been one of the most valuable and valued members of the middle school faculty since joining the school in 1979. Patient and professional, Nancy engages her students in a firm yet supportive manner that inspires them to rise to every occasion. Like a great coach, she knows her X's and O's. Just as important, she also knows how to get the most from her students, who are always eager to please her, to go above and beyond for her. For many years, she applied her coaching gifts to leading the middle school math team, while also creating such memorable classroom learning activities as the Geometry Valentine Project and designing the perfect bedroom. And all middle school students know Mrs. Walsh for the problem of the week, with which she makes math fun and accessible for everyone. Both admired and loved, she has been the heart and soul of middle school math since most of us can remember. Nancy, please accept this Distinguished Faculty Award with our deepest gratitude.
Thanks, Mark.
Now it's my pleasure to introduce a man who wears many hats. Husband to Joyce, father to St. Luke's alums and students, Kyle, Sky, Quentin, Austin, and Everett, co-founder and managing partner at Clearview Capital, chair of the St. Luke's Board of Trustees, and co-chair of our Momentum Committee. Please welcome James Andersen.
Thank you, Mark, and good evening, St. Luke's. If the question of the night is, how are we doing, we should begin with, what are we trying to do? This is our answer. St. Luke's mission, carefully and strategically crafted in 2015. It's our promise to families and the litmus test for every new initiative and idea. Does it serve the mission and thereby the students? We're honing in on the confidence to lead because confidence is the driver of St. Luke's transformation. And make no mistake, we are a school transformed. Tonight, I'll talk about the confidence to change, dramatically. Head of Upper School Liz Perry and guests will illuminate what happens when exceptional teachers have the freedom and confidence to teach. And Mark will close out the night with St. Luke's distinctive approach to teaching leadership. For those of you who only know the St. Luke's of today, well-respected, known for outstanding academics, a kind community, and a beautiful campus, you might be surprised by our trajectory. The 17 years since Mark's arrival have been continuous improvement on hyperdrive. Though the real magic happens between teachers and students, St. Luke's campus and learning environments have also undergone a revolution of change. Amazing. And only possible through the generosity of St. Luke's families, past and present. At last year's State of the School, I made the bold statement that St. Luke's transformation has propelled us into the upper echelon of independent schools in this country. This has never been truer, as the state of St. Luke's admissions quickly conveys. Since 2010, there's been a 42% increase in applications. 42%. Our enrollment during that same time has increased 13%. When you see that large increase in interest from families and the more modest enrollment increase, you know that means St. Luke's has the ability to be selective. This year we have 580 students, the largest enrollment in our 91-year history. One reason for our stellar enrollment and another indicator of how we're doing is this. Here is our 2019 matriculation list. St. Luke students headed out to many of the finest colleges. Guided by our outstanding college counseling team, our children get wise, grounded advice. Our team works tirelessly to help each individual student find the best fit. As Sonia Bell says, knowledge is the prize. All of our children, and we parents, benefit from this perspective. So how are we doing? Very well. How have we come all this way from a small, very good school to a major player in the fiercely competitive Fairchester independent school market? The fuel is the quality of our teachers and curriculum, which Liz will speak to, and the long line of families who have shared their time, talent, and treasure to see St. Luke's reach its potential. I call this St. Luke's long maroon line. It goes back decades and is made up of families standing shoulder to shoulder to create a legacy for our children and for future generations. Many changes began at St. Luke's in 2002 when a far-sighted group of trustees saw the potential of St. Luke's, and more importantly, the potential of a young, first-time head of school. Very good move. Another important boost came in 2007 when the Momentum campaign was launched. with a focus on revitalizing our campus and attracting and retaining exceptional teachers to ensure the best student outcomes. The Momentum campaign inspired donations totaling $66 million over the course of multiple phases. Our goal in this last year of the Momentum campaign is to grow our endowment and continue to fund our programs through our endowment, with your help. Endowed funds provide a dependable source of annual income for St. Luke's School. Earned interest supports the operating budget and helps to minimize tuition increases. Endowment is the mightiest of construction, built to last far beyond bricks and mortar. Endowment is the foundation and walls and roof, providing safety, security, continuity. At the beginning of Mark's tenure in July 2002, the endowment was a total of $3.3 million. Now it's nearly 10 times that size. We began in 2002 with 4 endowed funds and now have 21. These funds allow families to support many different programs and awards across the school. However, despite the growth in our endowment, we're still playing catch-up. I said earlier that St. Luke's has become a fierce competitor in Fairchester. In endowment, however, we lag our peers. We have work to do to ensure our endowment meets the needs of an institution of our size and stature. A robust endowment will allow us to make decisions from a position of financial strength and security rather than need. It's part of what gives us the confidence to lead. Even as we work to strengthen the school's future by building the endowment, St. Luke's families also invest in St. Luke's through the annual fund. The annual fund supports the daily life of students and teachers. The annual fund is the lifeblood of the school and is fundamental to a robust and dynamic educational experience. Last year, the annual fund exceeded its goal of $1,625,000 and reached 90% current parent participation. Thank you. The State of the School traditionally marks the launch of the annual fund, led by annual fund director Kathleen Murphy and co-chairs Michelle Adams and Kristen Stakos. And for senior families, the Senior Gift, led by Sharon Macy and Jeff Stute. Once again, we kick off with 100% participation from the Board of Trustees, the Parents Association Executive Board, the Administrative Council, and most remarkably, by faculty and staff, who once again are willing to go above and beyond. Last year, 90% of families contributed to the annual fund. When the request comes, I hope you will join us. I said that the quality of St. Luke's teachers and curriculum have, along with our families, been the fuel for St. Luke's success. It's time for Liz Perry to come to the stage and prove my point. Please welcome Head of Upper School, Liz Perry.
Thank you, James. Observing classes in the upper school is usually the best part of my day, and I know Amber Berry, head of the middle school, feels the same way. We see students in action being challenged and encouraged by their teachers at all grade levels. I've worked in many schools, and I know that what I see happening between teachers and students in St. Luke's classrooms is not typical. John Higgins has a PhD in marine science and could certainly spend the whole class just telling students what he knows. But instead, I watch him coach students in marine science by asking them questions. Did you know that one of the biggest problems with keeping a giant Pacific octopus in captivity is that they become bored? Last year, John challenged students to develop and laser cut plexiglass puzzles for a giant Pacific octopus at the Maritime Aquarium. And while the puzzles turned out to be incredibly cool, what I loved watching was the intellectual engagement of the students as they worked in groups on this challenge. This is the confidence to teach. It's what happens when we get out of the way and let exceptional teachers do what they were meant to do. The confidence to teach isn't only in writing original curriculum that literally no other school in the country is using. I also see the confidence in the ways our teachers pour themselves into their classes, remembering that being a teenager is hard and confusing, and sometimes you need a teacher who helps you have fun. Jingjing Lai joined the St. Luke's faculty in 2017, and her classroom is right across the hall from my office. So it's not unusual for me to hear her students playing games in Chinese, often interrupted by peals of laughter as they win, lose, or just make mistakes. Here's what one student wrote on a survey about Mandarin class. Ms. Lai has it down to a science. I don't know how she does it. Slides, screencasts, culture activities, crafts, story writing, research, Google Forms, positive feedback videos, progress checks, Quizlet games, Quizlet Live, Evernote, TED Talks, interactive notebooks, authentic field trips. Really, I don't know what we're doing next, but I'm excited. Creative teachers like Jingjing aren't just working chapter by chapter out of a textbook. They are canvassing the world for ways to make learning fun, and their students love it. Sometimes the confidence to teach means personalizing learning for our students. Khan Academy is great, but did you know Math Department Chair Mary Frederick has several YouTube channels devoted to math videos she has made to help students in her classes and on the SAT? If you haven't seen how video instruction can support student learning when students are at home doing their homework and they get stuck, check this out.
Can be a little bit harder. I can do 3x and x, and I can do 6 and 8. Now these should all be on your worksheet to follow along with. So that means that 3x times x equals 6 times 8. So 3x squared equals 48. Now we can see that it's a quadratic equation, but there's no linear term, so we're going to divide by 3 on both sides, and that's going to give me x squared equals 16.
Plenty of publishing companies make videos to accompany their textbooks, but how much better and more personalized when your teacher makes them specifically for your class as you review for a test? And because I know a few of you are still doing that problem with the intersecting chords in a circle, I will confirm for you that yes, x equals 4. When I eavesdrop on students in the library, which I do, and they're talking about math class, or when my own advisees tell me about a project that they're doing in history, what I'm listening for is this: are they engaged? When we give teachers the freedom to create innovative curriculum, to make learning fun, and to personalize their approach, we get engaged kids. For a long time, the letters AP for advanced placement have been the hallmark of strong high schools, but we find that's changing. St. Luke students are successful on AP exams, but AP in most subjects is no longer the capstone for an exceptional education. We have teachers and students who are ready to go beyond. Steve Flaxbart created advanced contemporary fiction specifically as a way to challenge our students who've already completed AP literature. Through the fiction of modern literary greats like Kurt Vonnegut, Margaret Atwood, Mohsin Hamid, David Foster Wallace, students in this advanced course are guided by Steve to do work that is truly college level. Ditto for Magistra Mahler, a scholar of classical literature and something of a Pied Piper around here for Latin and Greek. Magistra said there was a better way to challenge our top students in Latin. And this year, under their wise direction, we are proud to offer advanced Latin literature. Dale Griffa took the old AP music theory curriculum and turned it into a dynamic tour de force for our most accomplished music students. In addition to music theory, students in that class now also explore music history from around the world. Dale saw a need to go beyond, and he had the confidence to do it. I could go on, but I would rather introduce you to some of the teachers doing that innovative curriculum development and let you hear about it for yourselves. Please help me welcome upper school history teacher Hunter Martin.
A little little later this year, we're going to read a really cool article in my 12th grade Advanced European History course about American rock and roll music in Germany during the Cold War. At the time, many in both East and West Germany looked upon the arrival of this new foreign cultural form with a mixture of fear and fury, as it threatened, in the words of one critic, to turn respectable Germans in their formative years into, quote, wild beasts in ecstasy. This was especially true for young women. And nobody was more suspicious, nobody was more controversial than this guy, Elvis Presley, the king of rock, the king of controversy. Now, the author suggests that this frosty reception actually had very little to do with the music itself, and everything to do with attempts to redefine and validate what it meant to be German in the wake of National Socialism and in the face of an ascendant United States, to which rock music constituted a triple threat, thanks to its origins as a black cultural form, its rebellious undermining of gender norms, and its status as an object of mass consumption. Age, race, gender, class. These are some of the building blocks that advanced European history students encounter conceptually and learn to manipulate methodologically in the same way professional historians do, by taking deep, enriching dives into the scholarship that defines European history, both as a field of study and an academic discipline. Because age, race, gender, and class are also some of the building blocks upon which our world has taken shape, whether in Germany in the 1950s, South Africa in the 1980s, or the United States in the 2000s. And while history may not repeat itself, it has much to teach us. After all, we are living the legacy of our forebears, their successes as well as their struggles. It's for this reason that the humanities are at once timeless and endlessly topical, and why there is and will always be an urgency to the work of historians. Now, anybody with a library card or Wi-Fi has access to historical narratives that are written for all, or for students as a broad category, and these can be highly edifying. But one of the things I love most about teaching at St. Luke's School is that my colleagues and I are given the space to tailor-make a history education, not for students in the abstract, but for individuals with unique identities, particular needs, and their own evolving array of interests that reflect their ongoing discovery of self and the world around them. This past spring, for instance, 3 students in modern world history, our 10th grade course, approached me to see if, as part of a culinary project, they could create a video game, writing the code from scratch, no less, simulating a race to develop an atomic bomb in order to both end World War II and deliver a powerful message to the USSR in the earliest days of the Cold War. Across the game, players would be presented with choices that would impact the pace of their progress, as well as their ultimate success or failure in researching nuclear fission and acquiring the materials necessary to both build and detonate a functional bomb. Sounds awesome, doesn't it? Well, not only did they bring their video game to life, but they went on to teach class for an entire period, guiding a discussion with their peers of the choices that they had made when playing the simulation on their own, before transitioning into a presentation on the actual effort to build nuclear weapons technology during and after the Second World War. It was a total home run. And this is just one example of our students making the most of our community and values and ending the year on the highest of high notes. Such is our vocation here at St. Luke's, and it's precisely why I embraced the opportunity to create an Advanced European History Capstone course. I recently bumped into a former student who shared with me that she was planning to declare her major in history with a concentration in modern Europe. We joked a little bit about her unusually developed interest in Mary, Queen of Scots. Some might call it an obsession. I wouldn't, you could, but I wouldn't. She assured me it was alive and well. While her news made my heart sore because I love this stuff, I couldn't help but recall my frustration when, as a senior in AP Euro, she'd asked me if we could extend our discussion or exploration of Mary Stewart beyond the few scant pages devoted to her in the textbook. And I had to say, unfortunately, no. The AP test prep schedule won't permit it. Happily, by contrast, when a student currently enrolled in Advanced European History, a course that's every bit as rigorous as anything the College Board can dream up, and is modeled upon the actual courses that I took and taught at the college level, inquired just last week if we could build a unit around the Enlightenment philosophe Voltaire, I gotta say yes. That's the magic. That's what we're capable of here on the hilltop. If the adage is true, that you play the way you practice, then we have a tremendous opportunity, not just to curate curriculum that speaks directly to our students as individuals, but also one that enables them to practice being agents of change, which is another way of saying capable and confident leaders in their own educations. And that's why after many months of refining their ability to conduct independent research and express their ideas with clarity and precision on the page, the final paper in advanced European history is really more of a paper, where students are invited to imagine their own way of packaging their research and analysis in a way that inspires them, in a way that reflects the full array of their interests and ambitions. For some, this may well be a formal work of scholarly writing. For others, a documentary film, a graphic novel, a play, a video game, a chance to outdo yourself. The guidance I give is simple. Create something you're proud of. Draw upon what you learn in order to say something that you think matters. In brief, try to hit a grand slam. Do something that moves others, where you try to reach beyond yourself to the benefit of each and all. After all, this is what most of us do with our educations, whether in history or beyond. We apply them in ways that typically transcend academic disciplines and schoolwork. And more importantly, isn't this ultimately what we want most for our children? To feel as though they're in a position where they can swing for the fences, not with their eyes closed and their fingers crossed, but with their eyes open and belief that they can make their mark, that they can leave their stamp on history right in here and now. Thank you. I would now like to welcome St. Louis designLab Director, Michael Mitchell.
My professional trajectory changed in the summer of 2013. I attended a professional development experience constructing modern knowledge in Manchester, New Hampshire, that was known as a Minds-On Institute for Educators. The conference was deeply rooted in constructionism and challenged its participants to take off our teacher hat and put on a learner hat. I credit that week in Manchester as one of the most transformative in my professional career, and one that directly impacted the development of the Design Lab. It was there that I learned about digital fabrication and physical computing. I met other educators who were passionate about the maker movement, and I was reminded of the importance of play in the learning process. Behind me is one of my projects. It is an Arduino-powered koozie that warns me when the temperature of my beverage falls out of range. It was playful, for sure, but it was inspired by a real-world challenge. I was tired of reaching for my soda, or maybe my coffee, only to find that it had become room temperature. When I returned to the hilltop in the fall, I looked for similar challenges to share with my students in the engineering curriculum. Back then, if you can remember, cell phones still came with headphone jacks, and they came with wired earbuds, and as a result, my students were constantly fishing a tangled mess from their pockets. So that became one of their projects. Design a solution to this everyday challenge using our recently purchased 3D printer. At the time, I expected the projects to all be the same. I was wrong. Each student developed a unique prototype that creatively addressed a design problem. The rest is history, or maybe, more accurately, the future. Through applying the engineering design process to open-ended challenges, students continue to develop as problem solvers, and the Design Lab was eventually born. Our mission is to increase the creative problem-solving abilities of our students through engineering, computer science, and design thinking. With the launch of a new space and a rapidly developing middle school program, we are building a design lab that encourages all students to become creative problem solvers. Our curriculum has evolved significantly over the past 5 years, especially in the area of computer science. Liz talked about the freedom and confidence to teach the best curriculum that we can imagine, and we are fortunate that our program allows students to enroll in courses that best match their interests and previous experiences. We've had seniors with no prior experience try coding for the first time in our introductory course, Foundations of Computer Science. And we've had experienced 8th graders set a new class standard in AP Computer Science. As a result, we are constantly reevaluating our scope and sequence to develop courses that best meet students where they are. And we now offer 3 advanced courses that go well beyond the AP curriculum: data structures, software engineering, and computer systems architecture. This is apparently working quite well, according to a few recent graduates. Here's a quote from Clara. "The 3 years I spent with the computer science program at St. Luke's have put me ahead of my classmates in terms of skill level. It's rare to find a school that offers multiple post-AP classes. It is thanks to these courses that I feel well prepared to take computer science at a college level." And here's one from Carolina. "St. Luke's prepared me very well for MIT. Being able to take multiple computer science classes beyond the AP level allowed me to enter MIT with a very strong computer science foundation." She goes on to add that the resources at MIT and St. Luke's are amazingly similar. It's not a comparison that I mind at all. I think one of the reasons our students speak to their strong foundations is that we began their creative problem solving in middle school. Starting in 5th grade, students have formal time in their schedule for designLab courses that introduce the engineering design process as a tool for creative problem solving. This year, and moving forward, we are making sure that each project and program within the designLab has clear connections to public purpose. Our 6th graders will be learning about alternative energy sources and developing prototypes for the Habitat for Humanity model house in order to lower its cost of operation. Our 8th graders will be learning about woodworking and fabrication in order to build little free libraries for distribution in the local community. We want students to recognize that they can use the skills they develop in the Design Lab to do good for others. In addition to creative problem solving, the Design Lab is home to design thinking at St. Luke's. We recognize that exceptional leaders can empathize with and design for others. Last year, in our signature annual event, the Hackathon, we challenged participants to solve problems related to community transportation. This year, we are taking it a step further, and I'm excited to announce that we will be partnering with the Prospector Theater for the 2020 Hackathon. The Prospector, located in Ridgefield, is a nonprofit dedicated to providing meaningful employment to adults with disabilities through the operation of a premium, first-run movie theater. Their employees, known as prospects, will collaborate with our students to create adaptive technologies and tools that will have an immediate impact and hopefully a lasting impression. And since I have you as a captive audience, please help me spread the word that each student should try the hackathon at least once. It is not just for engineering and computer science students. It's for anyone who wants to learn how to create something. All students, regardless of their technical background, will leave with a better understanding of how the world works, and more importantly, the confidence to know they can make it better. I'm formally inviting all of you to join me at the Hackathon in January. Once you walk in this crazy space and see students of all ages happily engaged in their projects, you will know what Liz meant when she said, "What happens at St. Luke's is anything but typical." Thank you. I now get to introduce our final example of what happens when teachers have the confidence to teach. This one is set to music. Get ready for the School of Rock.
When I first started here, one of the things that always was of interest to me was finding a way to come together and combine the middle school and the upper schools. And have these kids learn from each other and be inspired by one another.
We shall teach rock to the world!
School of Rock, it's a story of growth. It's a story of how we help each other to become better, whether that's better musicians or better teachers, better people.
We actually had a 5-day audition process where they were learning the music, the dances, all of the acting. We put them through their paces. We really did.
Whether you have like a big part or a small part, it's fun, like no matter what.
An enormous undertaking for our middle schoolers. A huge amount of time and so many lines to learn, so many songs.
We knew we'd have a huge cast, like twice the size of our normal upper school musicals. And more than half of them would be middle schoolers.
I've really enjoyed seeing how some of our middle school actors interact with the upper schoolers, and they are developing these mentor-mentee relationships.
Watching their reactions and their eyes brighten and light up and cheer on these middle schoolers who are just acting their hearts out.
Bring it on, it's time to play.
Was so amazing. And you know what? This is what I was hoping for. And they're recognizing that their role is not just about delivering on stage, but actually modeling behavior and modeling the behavior for these young kids.
Mr. Peck would be giving instructions. They would see me talking, they would start talking. But if I was listening, they would listen. It was nice. A bunch of the high schoolers got to take on that leadership role, kind of like almost be a teacher.
I do look up to Katie, but it just feels like more of a friendship than people being mentors to you. We learned a lot from high schoolers too, because we learned how to act around. Yeah, we also they're just a really good role model. And they learned how to act around props and stuff because they wouldn't touch it.
No, honestly, I don't think it would have been as fun without them. So upper schoolers sometimes have a little bit of, I guess, tunnel vision about making something really awesome, and then the middle schoolers are really just sort of there to have fun. And the mix of that was really awesome.
Just seeing all these kids working together, whether it was middle school to high school or just in the same level, has really been an incredible experience.
The cast and crew of this show have kind of become like one big family. It's been a great experience for all of us.
We are the School of Rock!
Beautiful. Thank you, Liana and Emily. An all-school musical requires a cast of thousands beyond the cast, including technical production, costume design, set building, and managing the masses. It's a huge undertaking with a huge payoff for our students. That's the common thread for St. Luke's Theater, where students arrive in the upper school primed to tackle exciting material because they receive such a strong foundation in the middle school theater program, where talented educators nurture and inspire young thespians. It starts with Director of Theater Arts, Jason Peck, who has both the ability, go ahead, yep. Jason has both the ability and the confidence to lead, to take our program to places others dare not go. Jason transfers that confidence to his students, who excel with the challenging material he gives them while exceeding the high bar he sets for them. You saw this last year in The Wolves, the Pulitzer Prize-nominated play about the sometimes raw and painful lives of teens. There's a reason why we're one of only 3 high schools in the nation to have performed The Wolves. It's funny. It's gut-wrenchingly sad. Yet St. Luke's students rose to the challenge, to the chance to find inspiration in tough material. Jason believes his students are capable of great depth and sophistication, and so they are. In his words, if we limit our scope to avoid the less attractive aspects of humanity, we miss out on the beauty, inspiration, and compassion that await us. The confidence to perform has garnered accolades for St. Luke's, including the coveted Halo Award, the high school equivalent of a Tony. In the past 4 years, St. Luke's received 82 Halo nominations for acting and stagecraft and 12 top awards, including 3 for Best Play statewide. They don't have Halos for middle school shows, but if they did, I know St. Luke's would clean up there too. Last year, the 39 Steps won the Halo for Best Contemporary Play, and the Wolves won the Fearless Award. We might be in the running for that Fearless Award again this year, when St. Luke's becomes the first school anywhere to perform Admissions, winner of the Drama Desk and Outer Critics Circle Awards for Best Play. Jason's fearlessness comes from his desire to engage students in meaningful, life-changing experiences. Between Liz, Hunter, Michael, and Jason, you can see that exceptional teachers propel St. Luke's and our students above and beyond. In doing so, they model how to lead in service of others. Leading in service of others lies at the core of our mission and the Center for Leadership. When the CFL launched in 2011, St. Luke's was the only school in the Fairchester region to offer anything like it. Since then, many schools have followed us. It's not unusual for St. Luke's to be out ahead or for peer schools to follow. Last year, for example, I said on this stage, the well-being of our students trumps all else. I spoke of later start times, limits on homework, and restrictions on cell phones. Other school heads told me I was nuts to focus on well-being. One said, "You'll appear soft, Mark." Another warned I could lose my job. They were thinking, this is Fairfield County, home of very intense parents. Not you guys, but you know how those other parents can be. Fast forward from then, and we see many schools, private and public, introducing similar changes in the name of student well-being. And thank goodness for the sake and sanity of all students. Taking the lead to make a difference drives the Center for Leadership. The CFL exists because we knew an exceptional education must inspire the confidence to lead. Every year, in every grade, this team supports the faculty as they help St. Luke's build and practice leadership skills. And this happens in dozens of ways, through the Pie Night and declamations and J-Term and the Social Justice Leadership Summit, through a captain's training program, honor council, and student government, through student-inspired and led clubs and student-led parent-teacher conferences. Of the many leadership initiatives, I'll focus on 4. 2 are established signature programs, and 2 are new, but destined to become St. Luke's distinctions. Teaching leadership begins with a foundation of understanding. What is leadership, and why do you need it? Amber Berry and I had the chance to begin building this foundation with 5th graders a few weeks ago. We leapt at the chance to talk with 5th graders about community at St. Luke's. It's a word they hear all the time, but what does it mean to them? Can kids really make an impact on our communities? Well, soon 5th graders will put their understanding of leadership and community into practice when they start working with Kiva, a nonprofit that lends money to people in underserved communities. Our youngest students will make big decisions. They'll research, debate, and then agree on where they can make the biggest difference with this money, where they can most effectively give someone a chance at a better life. It's Leadership 101. And it's one of the ways we instill the CFL's most essential message: you are never too young to find your voice and make a difference. At the other end of the spectrum, many seniors find their leadership voices through a scholars program. Students in our scholars or independent study programs undertake year-long research projects in areas most meaningful to them. These are sample topics from last year's Scholars Symposium to give you a sense of subject matter. If you can understand those, get kudos. Many of our scholars continue their projects after they graduate. Last year, 2018 graduate and current Brown University student Amelia Wyckoff was selected as the Cum Laude Society National Winner for her 2018 Classical Scholars paper entitled Villain or Victim: Sexuality, Gender, and Female Agency in Medea. 2018 valedictorian Ajit Akole and his STEM advisor Jason Warner wrote a paper at the end of Ajit's independent study on the influenza virus. The Public Library of Science published Ajit and Jason's article entitled Model of Influenza Virus Acidification. 2018 STEM scholars Alexandra Truitt and Sophia Feldman studied St. Luke's students for their project entitled Analyzing the Ability to Teach Emotional Intelligence and Its Impact on Performance and Well-Being. Now a sophomore at Yale, Alexandra was recently hired by the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence to help them develop an emotional intelligence app. To her surprise, on her first day of work at CEI, she spotted on a conference room wall the large poster she and Sophia had made to display their research results. What an exclamation point on a leadership opportunity through scholarship. Come to this year's Scholars Symposium, even if you don't know any of the students presenting. I guarantee you'll learn something and you'll see the confidence to lead in action. New from the CFL last year, Leadership Lab. Leadership Lab offers 2-week mini courses of intensive project-based learning around different aspects of leadership. Our first Leadership Lab, The Power of Brand, was the brainchild of St. Luke's trustee Chris Waring, who co-taught the class with CFL director Kate Parker-Brigard. After learning the fundamentals of branding, what is it, why do you need it, how do you do it, students were invited to use their new knowledge to create and pitch a company or product to guest judges, as if they were potential investors. Picture a kindler and gentler Shark Tank. Students worked in teams to develop their ideas and presentations. Guest mentors helped them think through their ideas. Mentors included St. Luke's parents and trustees Rich Riley, former CEO of Shazam, and David Packman, partner at Venrock and co-founder of Apple Music Group. Mike Garmer, St. Luke's parent and president of Vineyard Vines, also served as a Leadership Lab mentor. Guest judges for the 2 sessions were Gail Tifford, Chief Brand Officer at WW, and Charlie Denson, former Chief Marketing Officer at Nike, and Shep and Ian Murray, founders of Vineyard Vines. Can you imagine learning branding from this group as an adult, let alone a student? That's like saying my child is taking an investment course with Warren Buffett. This year, Leadership Lab features the power of public service. Co-taught by Kate Parker-Brigard and St. Luke's parent Michael Gordon, this Leadership Lab will build the skills needed to influence public policy. And late-breaking news, just this afternoon, we learned that students in this course will present their policy proposals to Congressman Jim Himes right here on campus. The Center for Leadership teaches that good leaders use their knowledge and skills to move their communities forward to improve the world. The ability to listen to and learn from other perspectives might be the most important leadership skill we can teach our students. A few years ago, we decided to lean into civil discourse, not as a classroom curriculum per se, but rather as the practice of active and respectful listening to others, of seeking to understand before seeking to be understood. In my summer letter, I described joining St. Luke's colleagues and educators from across the country at the Cato Institute's Sphere Summit. Our agenda: restoring a spirit of civil, constructive, and respectful discourse and engagement. I just have to say this. President and CEO of the Cato Institute, Peter Gatler, former parent and trustee, thank you for being here tonight. You didn't know I was going to say that. St. Luke's was the only school asked to present at Sphere. Why? Because we are out ahead with this work. Sphere attendees were surprised and eager to hear about our intentional pursuit and practice of difficult conversations, such as those we have in our Community Goals for Learning, or CGL groups. CGL groups are led by students who've been trained by the Center for Leadership to practice and teach a kind of respectful listening and discussion we too rarely see in our broader society. This program has been successful in upper school, and we are right now exploring ways to bring the concept to middle school in a developmentally appropriate way. CGL topics have included race and racism, religion and religious stereotypes, gender and gender roles. Hard stuff, but this is the core of civil discourse. Teaching our students how to listen to and learn from each other's perspectives distinguishes our school. It also can help the world by creating a next generation of citizens and leaders. Our CGLs have also caught the attention of the esteemed Council on Spiritual and Ethical Education, which invited St. Luke's to record a CGL webinar later this fall. CGL discussions are often preceded by guest speakers, such as Anthony Ray Hinton, author and death row survivor. Hinton spoke to students about being wrongly imprisoned for 30 years. His story and spirit sparked passionate CGL discussions and ongoing student activism, including a petition to the state of Alabama to issue him a formal apology. Congressman Jim Himes and CNN anchor and St. Luke's parent Allison Camerata and former White House press secretary and St. Luke's parent Ari Fleischer discussed the dangers of echo chambers and modeled the importance of respectful listening, especially when we disagree with each other. We have some compelling speakers coming to speak with parents this year. This includes Robin DiAngelo in February and Nadine Strawson in April. What an opportunity for us to learn, to have our assumptions challenged, and to model civil discourse and civil disagreement. And if you're not sure what you think of these speakers or whether you'll agree with them, that's fantastic. It seems counterintuitive, but the confidence to lead includes the confidence to be uncertain, to be able to learn from others, to say, I don't know the answer. There's a wisdom and powerful humility in being able to say, I'm not sure. In school, we ask students to write persuasive essays and compelling lab reports, but only after rigorous explication of literature and careful scientific observations. In other words, only after seeking to understand. There might or might not be an objective truth to be discovered through such investigations, but the only way to find out is through serious and open-minded reading and analysis. That seems to me the best possible lesson for St. Luke's students, our next generation of citizens and leaders. We open tonight with jobs to be done. I hope you think you hired well, but we'll never take that for granted. Continuous improvement, exceeding your expectations, and going above and beyond for your children require that we not rest on our laurels. And so, led by the Board of Trustees, we're kicking off a year-long strategic planning process to ensure that a St. Luke's education remains exceptional and that we make the strategic choices required to inspire in your children a deep love of learning, a strong moral compass, the commitment to serve, and the confidence to lead. Stay tuned for information in the coming weeks. Before we head off into the night, a few final thoughts.
On go. 1, 2, 3, go. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
I think an exceptional teacher is, well, definitely someone who's very enthusiastic about what they're teaching. And I've never met a St. Luke's teacher who wasn't enthusiastic about what they're teaching.
and also someone who really knows how to connect with their students and meet them where they're at.
I think it's having them laughing with you, having fun with it, and making it a joy for the learners to come to that class.
A great teacher is someone who could teach the material and the course level very well to students and give them the ability to succeed, but an exceptional teacher goes above and beyond. They want to know how you're doing in your day-to-day life, how your sports game went. I feel like that's what really helps people grow as students and as people, and that's what really struck me about St. Luke's, is that we have a lot of exceptional teachers.
Who puts the word exceptional in their mission statement? Nobody. We did, because to us it's not bragging, it's what we aspire to. We know that what we're doing here is something different and therefore exceptional for our kids.
I think exceptional teachers are able to adapt to their students, teach to their students, but also just care about their students outside of school. Like, not outside of school, but outside of schoolwork. Like, not just about their grades, but about like how they're doing as a person, and able to create good relationships. It's really important that a teacher can read their students, and just St. Luke's teachers are really phenomenal at that, at tailoring the classes to what we want and what we need, and also helping to push us forward. That's another really important element of a teacher, is someone who's going to challenge you and not just let you sit in your comfort zone.
Someone who's strict, a little bit strict, so that you follow the rules, but someone who's always ready to help their student and is very patient.
Stresses kindness. I think she is kind herself. I think she helps her students when they don't understand something and explain it, and also loving all the students in her class as well.
It's fun going to the class since they always make jokes every once in a while. You really don't feel like, I have social studies now, I have English now. You don't really feel like school ever gets boring.
I've been getting so sad lately just thinking about how I'm not going to be with these teachers next year, and I hope I find teachers in the future who are this awesome, because I've really just had the most amazing time at St. Luke's with my teachers, and they've really been the people who have been pushing me this whole way to get where I am, and I love them so much.
Thank you, and good night, St. Luke's.